A massive, 7-foot mirror, framed in ornate, Rococo-style giltwood, reflected the image of a woman who was physically perfect, yet utterly shattered inside. Arya adjusted the fall of her dress one last time. The deep maroon silk gown clung to her body with an understated elegance. It was a color chosen specifically for this night, the color of courage, or perhaps the color of blood from an invisible wound. On her vanity, her phone vibrated softly. A text message from Mr. Davenport, her late father's trusted attorney and legal counsel for the family's corporation, the Sterling Group. "Everything is in place, Mrs. Sterling. I have the hard copies. The security team is positioned at the blind spots, and the IT technicians have full control of the ballroom's audio-visual system." Arya didn't reply. She simply deleted the message and took a long, deep breath. 5 years. For 5 years, she had dedicated her life to being a devoted wife to Ryan. She had handed him the CEO position, believing in his ambition and capability, while she chose to support him from the sidelines as a passive chairwoman of the board. It turned out her trust was the fuel for his betrayal. The bedroom door opened abruptly, without a knock. Ryan strode in, wearing a bespoke Tom Ford tuxedo paid for with the company credit card. His handsome face was tense, but his eyes radiated an impatience he couldn't hide. "Are you still getting ready?" "The important guests are already arriving," Ryan said coldly, without a single compliment for his wife's appearance on their 5th wedding anniversary. His eyes were glued to his phone screen. His thumb typed furiously before he slipped the device into the inner pocket of his jacket. "Almost ready, honey. I just want to make sure everything is perfect," Arya replied calmly, her voice flat. There was none of the playful affection it usually held. Ryan snorted softly, adjusting his bow tie in the mirror, standing right beside Arya as if she weren't there. "Just make sure you don't embarrass me tonight. The investors from Singapore are here. Don't talk about business. You don't understand any of it. Just smile and be a pretty ornament." Those words would have wounded her once, but tonight they only hardened her resolve. Arya smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Don't worry, Ryan. Tonight will be a night to remember. I've prepared everything." Ryan missed the double meaning in her words. He was too consumed by his own ego, too certain that Arya was a naive woman who only knew how to spend her inheritance. He turned and left the room, leaving behind a trail of masculine cologne mixed with another woman's perfume, a cheap vanilla scent she had often smelled on his work jackets lately. Arya opened a locked drawer in her vanity. Inside lay a small black flash drive. She gripped it tightly, as if the tiny object were the detonator to a bomb, ready to obliterate the ivory tower her husband had built on a foundation of lies. "Happy anniversary, Ryan," Arya whispered to her own reflection. "Enjoy what's left of your time as king." The Grand Astoria ballroom was bathed in the light of crystal chandeliers. White lilies, Arya's favorite, adorned every corner. An ironic choice, given lilies are often associated with funerals and partings. Hundreds of guests from the business elite, high society, and close relatives filled the opulent space. The clinking of glasses and polite chatter filled the air. Arya entered on Ryan's arm. Camera flashes from society photographers popped around them. To the world, they were a power couple, the sole heiress of the Sterling Group and the brilliant husband who had managed to multiply the company's assets, a perfect charade. "Ryan, my boy!" a shrill voice called from the VIP table. Arya's mother-in-law, Brenda, approached them in a gown far too sequined for her age. Behind her, Ryan's father and younger sister, Tiffany, followed with an air of unearned arrogance. They were a modest family who had struck it rich when Ryan married Arya, yet they never acquired the grace to match their newfound wealth. "Wow, what a lavish party," Brenda commented, scanning the room. Her gaze then fell on Arya with a dismissive look. "It's a good thing Ryan is so smart at running your father's company, Arya. If it were left to you, it probably would have gone bankrupt, and we couldn't be having parties like this." Arya smiled politely, suppressing the inferno in her chest. "You're right, Brenda. Ryan is certainly very creative with finances." "Of course he is," Tiffany chimed in, flaunting her new Chanel bag. "My brother is a visionary. You should be grateful, Arya." Just as Arya was about to respond, her eyes caught movement at the entrance. A young woman in her early 20s walked in confidently, wearing a striking electric blue dress with a thigh-high slit. Her face was beautiful, but her makeup was too heavy. It was Lena, Ryan's secretary, or, more accurately, the mistress Ryan was funding with company money. Arya's heart hammered, not from jealousy, but from anticipation. He actually had the nerve to bring her here. Ryan looked momentarily flustered when he saw Lena, but he quickly gave her a subtle nod. Lena smiled mischievously and mingled with a group of Ryan's business associates, acting as if she were the second lady of the house. "Who is that woman, honey?" Arya asked, feigning ignorance, though she knew exactly who Lena was, where she lived, and how much money Ryan had wired to her last month. Ryan cleared his throat, loosening his collar, which suddenly felt tight. "That's Lena, the new secretary I told you about. She's very competent. I invited her to help manage the VIP guests." "Oh, a secretary." Arya nodded slowly. "She seems very close to you. She's even wearing a diamond necklace that looks just like the one I saw on your credit card statement last month." "What an interesting coincidence." Ryan's face paled for a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "Don't start with your baseless suspicions, Arya. That's a common design. Don't embarrass me with your blind jealousy." He detached his arm from Arya's and walked over to Lena. Arya watched them whisper and share a small laugh. Ryan even touched the small of Lena's back for a fleeting moment when he thought no one was looking. Across the room, Mr. Davenport gave Arya a slight nod. It was the signal. All the players were in position. The stage was set for the collapse of Ryan's carefully constructed play, and Arya was about to pull the curtain. Dinner was over. It was time for the main event, the anniversary toast and a speech from the host. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight focused on the main stage, which was decorated with a giant number 5 made of roses. The MC called Ryan and Arya to the stage. Ryan strode forward, grabbing the microphone with overflowing confidence. Arya stood 2 steps beside him, her face impassive, her hands clasped calmly in front of her. "Good evening, everyone!" Ryan's baritone voice boomed, sounding authoritative. "Thank you for being here to celebrate 5 years of my marriage to Arya. 5 years, a long time to get to know someone." He paused, turning to Arya, but his gaze was empty, devoid of warmth. He then looked back at the audience, his eyes locking onto Lena, who stood in the front row, smiling triumphantly. "Many people say marriage is about compromise," Ryan continued, his tone shifting, becoming more serious and sharp. "But I've come to realize that marriage is also about being honest with yourself. For these 5 years, I have worked tirelessly to build the Sterling Group. I gave it my all, but I realize I need a partner who can keep pace with me. Someone who understands my vision, not someone who just lives in the shadow of her father's great name." The room grew uncomfortable. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Arya remained silent, letting Ryan dig his own grave. Ryan took a deep breath and then dropped his bombshell. "So on this special night, I want to announce a major decision. I think 5 years has been enough for us, Arya. I want to end this marriage." A stunned silence fell over the ballroom. Guests gasped. Arya's uncle and aunt, representing her family, started to rise from their chairs, their faces red with fury, but Mr. Davenport held them back with a hand signal. Ryan ignored the guests' reactions. He pointed toward Lena. "I want to introduce someone who, for the past year, has truly supported me, both in my work and my personal life. Lena, please come up." With a contrived, graceful walk, Lena ascended the stage. She stood beside Ryan, and he shamelessly wrapped his arm around her waist in front of hundreds of people, in front of his legal wife. "Lena is my future wife," Ryan declared loudly. Feeling on top of the world, he turned to Arya with a cynical smile. "I'm sorry, Arya, but you can't force love. I'll handle the division of assets fairly. You'll still get your share, even though I was the one who grew this company." From the audience, Ryan's mother, Brenda, began to clap awkwardly, trying to support her son despite the chaotic situation. A few of Ryan's relatives followed with hesitant applause. Ryan looked at Arya, expecting tears, hysteria, or an outburst. He expected her to beg or run out of the room crying. That was the scenario in his head. But Arya didn't move. She didn't cry. Instead, she stepped forward, closer to Ryan. He took a step back, wary that she might slap him, but Arya simply held out her hand for the microphone. "May I say something, Ryan?" she asked softly. Ryan chuckled dismissively and handed her the microphone. "Go ahead, say your goodbye with some dignity." Arya gripped the microphone tightly. She looked at Ryan, then at Lena, and finally at the entire audience. Her gaze was sharp, cold, and lethal. "Thank you, Ryan, for your honesty." Arya's voice came through the speakers, clear and steady. There was no tremor of sadness, only an authority she had hidden for years. "You're right. 5 years is a long time. Long enough for me to learn who you truly are. You said you want a divorce. I agree. In fact, my divorce petition was filed by my lawyer this morning, long before your little speech." Ryan was shocked, his brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" Arya ignored him. She signaled to the operator at the back of the room. "Since you've introduced your future wife and your plans, allow me to give you one final gift, Ryan. A parting gift for all your hard work." The ballroom lights went out completely. The only illumination came from the massive projector screen behind the stage, which suddenly blazed to life. Slide 1. A close-up photo of Ryan and Lena kissing passionately in the pool of a luxury villa in Miami. The date stamp was clear. 2 months ago, when Ryan had said he was on a business trip to meet with investors. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Lena's face turned ashen. Ryan stared, wide-eyed, trying to snatch the microphone from Arya, but she sidestepped him deftly. "That's just the appetizer," Arya said coldly. Slide 2. The screen changed to a series of Excel spreadsheets and bank transfer records. This is proof of company funds being funneled into a personal account under the name Lena Santos, a total of $250,000 in the last 6 months. The transaction labels read, "External consultant fees." Yet Lena is merely a secretary with a high school diploma and no consulting certifications. The shareholders in the room began to stand up, their faces flushed with anger. It was their money he was stealing. Slide 3. Scans of falsified invoices appeared. "And this," Arya continued, her voice rising above the growing commotion, "is proof of a 40% markup on the purchase of factory machinery. The difference, approximately $5 million, went into an account in the name of Buddy Santos, Lena's father." Arya turned to Ryan, who was now trembling uncontrollably. Cold sweat poured down his temples. His arrogance had vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated fear. "Did you think I was silent all this time because I was stupid, Ryan?" Arya whispered, but the microphone caught it clearly for the whole room to hear. "I was silent because I was busy collecting the nails for your coffin." "Turn it off! Turn off the screen!" Ryan screamed frantically at the operator. But the operator was on Arya's payroll. He didn't move. The screen kept changing, displaying evidence of 5-star hotel check-ins, luxury handbag purchases, and even WhatsApp conversations where Ryan belittled Arya and her family. There was even a screenshot of a text to his mother, Brenda, that read, "Just be patient, Mom. 1 more year and I'll control 100% of Arya's shares. Then we kick her to the curb." Brenda, sitting at the VIP table, now bowed her head deep, avoiding the disgusted stares of the other guests. "Enough, Arya. We'll talk about this at home," Ryan yelled, trying to grab Arya's arm roughly. But before his filthy hand could touch her skin, 2 burly men in security uniforms rushed the stage and restrained him. The chaos in the ballroom reached its peak. The guests, most of whom were business partners, began to jeer at Ryan. The reputation he had so carefully built crumbled in minutes. Arya retrieved a small clutch that her assistant brought onto the stage. She pulled out a thick manila envelope bearing the official Sterling Group logo. "One more thing, Ryan," Arya said. She walked toward him as he was held by the 2 guards. Lena stood trembling in a corner of the stage, crying crocodile tears, but no one paid her any mind. "You said earlier that you grew this company. You're wrong. My father built it, and our loyal employees grew it. You were just a parasite, feeding on your host." Arya slapped Ryan's chest with the envelope. "This is the resolution from the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders held this afternoon. Without your knowledge, it confirms your termination, with cause, from the position of Chief Operating Officer. As of this second, You are fired." Ryan stared at the envelope with a vacant expression. "You can't do this. I have a contract." "Your contract is legally void because you committed felony fraud and embezzlement," Mr. Davenport cut in, having suddenly appeared on stage beside Arya. "And inside that envelope is also a copy of the police report we just filed. Embezzlement of funds exceeding $5 million. The sentencing guidelines suggest a minimum of 5 years in federal prison, Ryan." Ryan's legs gave out. He collapsed, held up only by the security guards. He looked at Arya, searching for any remnant of love or mercy that might still exist. "Arya, this is a misunderstanding. I can explain." Arya met his gaze with a look that could freeze hell over. "There's nothing to explain. Save your voice for the judge," she signaled to the head of security. "Escort them both out. They're trespassing at my private event." "Wait, I didn't do anything. Ryan brought me here." Lena shrieked hysterically as a female security guard pulled her away. "Mrs. Sterling, please, I'm just a victim." Arya didn't even turn her head. She let them drag Ryan and Lena off the stage, through a gauntlet of guests staring at them with disgust. Ryan struggled, screaming his mother's name, but Brenda and the rest of his family had already slipped out a side door in shame. As the ballroom doors closed behind Ryan and Lena, silence once again filled the room. Arya took a long, deep breath, recomposing herself. She raised a champagne flute from the podium table. "My apologies for that. Interruption in our entertainment, ladies and gentlemen," she said with an elegant smile, as if she had just taken out the trash and not destroyed her husband's life. "Please, enjoy dessert. Tonight, we celebrate freedom and a new future for the Sterling Group, parasite-free." The guests were stunned for a moment. Then, one by one, they began to clap. The applause grew into a thunderous ovation not for a wedding anniversary, but in honor of the queen who had just reclaimed her crown. Arya descended the stage, where Mr. Davenport met her. "Excellent work, Mrs. Sterling. The police are waiting in the lobby to take Mr. Sterling in for initial questioning," he whispered. "Make sure every asset he has with him is seized, Mr. Davenport. The company car, the corporate phone, the laptop. I want him to leave this building with nothing but the clothes on his back." "Consider it done, ma'am." Arya walked out of the ballroom and onto a balcony. The night air hit her face. She didn't cry. She felt relieved. Truly, deeply relieved. A 5-year burden had just been lifted from her shoulders. The war had just begun, and Arya had already won the first battle, decisively. The morning sun pierced through the curtains of the 5-star hotel, where Ryan and Lena had spent the night, not by choice, but because they had nowhere else to go after being thrown out of the party and the company-owned penthouse. Ryan woke with a throbbing headache. He fumbled for his phone on the nightstand. Nothing. He then remembered his brand-new iPhone had been confiscated by Arya's security team as a company asset. All he had left was his old backup phone with a cracked screen. "Babe, I'm hungry." "Order some room service," Lena whined from under the thick duvet. "And book me a spa appointment. My body aches from being dragged around by those damn guards." Ryan grunted in annoyance but picked up the hotel phone and ordered a lavish breakfast. American breakfast, smoked salmon and fresh juice. "Calm down, Ryan," he told himself. "You have savings. You have connections. Arya is just bluffing." Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. It wasn't room service. It was the hotel manager, flanked by 2 security guards. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," the manager said with a stiff smile. "I'm sorry, but we must ask you and your guest to check out immediately." "What is this?" Ryan snapped, his ego stung. "I haven't even had breakfast. I'm a VIP guest here." "Your VIP status was registered under the Sterling Group corporate account," the manager explained coldly. "The company contacted us this morning. They have canceled their payment guarantee for this room and blocked your access to all corporate facilities. If you wish to stay, you'll need to pay a cash or personal credit card deposit of $5,000 per night, starting with last night's bill." Ryan's face flushed. He pulled out his wallet with a trembling hand and produced his personal platinum credit card. "Charge this. I'll pay for it myself." The manager took the card and swiped it through a portable machine. After a moment, the machine beeped. Declined. "Try it again," Ryan yelled. Declined. "I'm sorry, sir. The card has been rejected. It seems your limit has been frozen or canceled by the issuing bank, the manager said, handing back the now worthless piece of plastic. Ryan remembered. It was a supplementary card linked to Arya's priority banking account. He had forgotten that he'd never bothered getting a credit card in his own name, too comfortable using his wife's facilities. "Babe, what are we going to do?" Lena whispered fearfully, clutching the blanket. "We're leaving," Ryan growled, throwing the card to the floor. "This damn hotel. I'll report you." They left the hotel with suitcases full of last night's party clothes. When they reached the lobby, Ryan went to the valet desk to retrieve his BMW 7 Series. "My car keys," Ryan demanded. The valet looked awkward. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. Your car was picked up early this morning." "Picked up? Who dared to steal my car?" "The leasing company and the asset team from the Sterling Group, sir. They had an official asset repossession order. Since the car is registered to the company, we couldn't stop them." Ryan's world was spinning. No hotel, no breakfast, no car. He stood in the lobby of a luxury hotel in a wrinkled tuxedo, accompanied by a mistress who was starting to look sour and a wallet containing only a few $100s in cash. A cheap Uber was their only option. The collapse of Ryan's ivory tower didn't begin with a loud explosion, but with the quiet beep of a credit card machine denying his purchase. The Uber stopped in front of the magnificent Sterling Tower. Ryan got out in a hurry, leaving Lena complaining about the heat inside the car. He had to get inside. He had to retrieve important documents he kept in a secret safe in his office, documents that could be used as leverage or at least save the rest of the money he had embezzled. Ryan walked toward the revolving doors of the lobby. In the past, security guards would have held the door for him with a respectful bow. The receptionist would have greeted him with a sweet smile. Today, his path was blocked by the automated security gate. He tapped his temporary access card. His official ID had already been confiscated. A red light flashed. Access denied. Ryan tried again. Red light again. "Jackson, open the gate!" Ryan shouted at the head of security standing behind the turnstile. Jackson, a middle-aged man to whom Ryan had often given company-funded cigars, looked at him with a flat expression. He walked closer, but didn't open the gate. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. Instructions from Mrs. Sterling and the board are clear. You are forbidden from setting foot on company property," Jackson said firmly. "I'm the COO! That termination notice isn't legally valid yet!" Ryan screamed, drawing the attention of other employees passing by. They whispered amongst themselves. Some even brazenly took pictures of the pathetic scene. "It's valid, sir. A company-wide email blast was sent out this morning," Jackson replied. He pointed to a corner of the security post where two neatly taped cardboard boxes sat. "Your personal belongings have been packed. Photos, mugs, jackets, you can take them. As for documents and electronic assets, they've all been retained for the audit." Ryan stared at the boxes with disbelief. 5 years he had worked here, commanding hundreds of people, and now his entire existence was summarized in 2 pathetic boxes. "This is impossible!" Ryan pounded on the glass barrier. "Call Arya. Tell her to come down here." "Mrs. Sterling is in a board meeting. If you continue to cause a disturbance, I'll be forced to call the police for trespassing on private property," Jackson threatened, his hand already resting on his baton. Ryan's bravado evaporated. The threat of the police was no joke, especially with the embezzlement charges already filed. He snatched the 2 boxes roughly. When he returned to the Uber, Lena looked at him with an unreadable expression. It wasn't sympathy, it was calculation. "Where's the money, Ryan?" "You said you were going to get cash from your safe," Lena asked curtly. "Shut up," Ryan snapped. "Change of plans. We're going to my parents' house first." "Your parents' cramped little house?" Lena sneered. "I thought we were going to buy a condo in Soho." "Things are complicated right now, Lena. Can't you be supportive for once?" Lena turned away, staring out the window. In her mind, the calculation was simple. Without a title, a luxury car, and access to Arya's money, Ryan was just an ordinary man with a volatile temper. Her investment in him was starting to look like a massive loss. While Ryan battled the sweltering New York streets, Arya sat calmly in the living room of her main residence. Her peace was soon disturbed by the sound of a car horn and shouting from the front gate. It was Ryan's family: Brenda, his father, and Tiffany. They had arrived in a Cadillac Escalade whose monthly payments were covered by Ryan, or rather, by Aria's company. Aria signaled for the house security to let them in. She wanted to settle this once and for all. Brenda stormed into the living room without wiping her feet, her face red with rage. "Aria, how dare you humiliate your husband and your in-laws in front of everyone last night?" Brenda sprayed, without any preamble. "What kind of wife are you? You're supposed to cover your husband's shame, not air it out for the world to see." Aria slowly sipped her jasmine tea, then set the cup down with a soft but firm clink. "Correction, Brenda, ex-husband," Aria replied coolly. "And as for shame, shame is when a husband embezzles his wife's money to finance his mistress and the lifestyle of his shameless, entitled family." "Watch your mouth." Tiffany stepped forward, pointing a finger at Aria's face. "Who do you think you are, Aria? Without Ryan, that company would be nothing." Aria let out a small, dry laugh. She picked up a blue folder from the coffee table. "Tiffany, 22 years old, attending a private university. A $150,000 donation to get in, and tuition of $70,000 a year, wired from the Sterling Group's operational account under the description Educational Charity Grant." Tiffany's face went white. "Brenda," Aria continued, turning her gaze to her mother-in-law. "Socialite charity events, gold jewelry, renovating your house back home, a total of $500,000 over the last 2 years. The source? Marked up invoices from the office catering service." The room fell silent. "You came here to yell at me?" Aria stood up, her dominant aura filling the space. "You should be on your knees, begging for my forgiveness. Everything you've enjoyed was bought with stolen money, money that belonged to my employees, money inherited from my father." That was Ryan's money as COO. He was entitled to it." Brenda defended herself, though her voice trembled. "Ryan's salary was $350,000 a year. Your family's expenses were over $1 million. What kind of math are you using, Brenda?" Aria retorted. She threw the folder in front of them. "As of today, right now, all privileges are revoked. The Escalade payments, I stopped them this morning. Expect a call from the repo company tomorrow. Tiffany's tuition, you're on your own. And one more thing, if any of you dare to set foot here again or cause a scene in the media, I will have all of you prosecuted as accessories to fraud. That's a minimum of 4 years in prison." Ryan's father, who had been silent, finally grabbed his wife's arm. "That's enough, Brenda. Let's go home. She's serious." "But," I said, "let's go," he snapped. The fear of prison had shattered his nerve. The family of parasites retreated, shuffling out of Aria's house 1,000 times less confident than when they had arrived. Aria sat back down, staring at the closed door. There was no sadness at losing her in-laws. She knew they had never considered her family only a walking ATM. The next day, the atmosphere in the Sterling Group's boardroom was tense. Aria sat at the head of the table, flanked by Mr. Davenport and the head of an independent auditing firm she had hired, a man named Mr. Henderson. On the projector screen was a financial flowchart as complex as a spider's web. "Our findings are worse than we initially suspected, Mrs. Sterling," Mr. Henderson said seriously, adjusting his glasses. Ryan wasn't working alone. This was a syndicate. Aria frowned. "Explain." "Besides Lena Santos, we found 3 other fictitious vendor companies that routinely won procurement tenders at the Sterling Group over the last 3 years. These companies are all registered to the same strip mall address. The owners are distant relatives of Lena and one of Ryan's own cousins. The pattern was clean. They submitted inflated bids. Ryan approved them. The goods were either low quality or never delivered at all, and the difference was split." Aria massaged her temples. She felt nauseous, not from a betrayed love, but from the realization of just how rotten the man who had slept beside her for 5 years truly was. Ryan wasn't just a cheater, he was a professional criminal. "What's the total loss?" Aria asked. "The preliminary estimate is around $15 million, ma'am. This already qualifies as money laundering, as some of the funds were used to purchase real estate assets in third-party names," Mr. Davenport added. "How deeply is Lena involved?" Aria asked. "Very deep," Mr. Davenport replied. "Lena's signature is on almost all of the fake delivery receipts. Legally, she's a primary co-conspirator." She could face a sentence just as long as Ryan's. Arya stared at the screen for a long time. A new plan began to form in her mind, a plan to break the bond between the two traitors. "Mr. Davenport," Arya called. "Yes, ma'am?" "Don't arrest Lena yet. Let Ryan bear the full weight of this for now. But make sure Lena knows her position is compromised. Make her feel terrified, but give her a narrow escape route." Mr. Davenport smiled, understanding completely. "You want Lena to betray Ryan." "Rats will eat each other when they're trapped in a small cage," Arya replied coldly. "Let them destroy each other. I want to see Ryan fall not by my hand, but pushed by the very woman he was so proud of." A small, cramped rental room on the outskirts of Queens. The peeling paint on the walls was a dull green. The air was thick and humid, stirred only by a small, rattling fan. This was Ryan and Lena's new palace. Ryan sat on a thin foam mattress on the floor, surrounded by his cardboard boxes. He had just finished calling his old friends, begging for help or a loan. The result was zero. Once news of his firing and the fraud case spread through their business association WhatsApp group, everyone avoided him like the plague. "It's so hot in here, babe. Where's the AC you said you'd install?" Lena complained. She was trying to wipe off her makeup with a wet wipe because the water in the bathroom was just a trickle and brownish. "Just be patient, will you? I'm busy trying to find money," Ryan snapped. The stress made him explosive. "Find money or beg for it? I heard you on the phone with Mr. Daniels, practically groveling. It was embarrassing," Lena sneered. Ryan threw his phone onto the mattress and stared at Lena with wild eyes. "Why are you acting like this? You used to be so sweet and supportive. Now all you do is complain. I did all of this for us, Lena." "For us?" Lena laughed cynically, standing with her hands on her hips. Her expensive dress looked ridiculous in the squalid room. "I was with you because you promised me a good life, Ryan. You said Arya was stupid. You said you were in control. The reality is, you got kicked out like a stray dog, and now I'm stuck in this dump with you. Where's my monthly allowance? Where's the Hermes bag you promised me? You think I embezzled all that money just for myself?" Ryan stood, his anger peaking. "That money was for you, for your father, for our wedding. Now that I've fallen, you should be supporting me, not making demands." "Support you with what? Love?" Lena snorted. "Love doesn't pay the rent on this shithole next month, Ryan." "So you only loved my money? Did you think I was in love with your beer belly?" Slap! A sharp slap landed on Lena's cheek. Ryan stared at his own hand, trembling. He had never hit a woman before. Arya had never provoked his anger like this. Lena held her reddening cheek. Her eyes welled with tears, not of sadness, but of rage and hatred. She didn't retaliate. She just backed away slowly and picked up her purse. "I'm going out to get something to eat," Lena said icily. "Lena, wait! I didn't mean it." Ryan reached for her. Lena slapped his hand away and slammed the flimsy door behind her. Outside, in the narrow, damp alley, Lena pulled out her phone. There was a text from an unknown number 1 of Mr. Davenport's staff. It read, "Miss Lena Santos, we have evidence of your involvement in the Sterling Group fraud case. This carries a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. If you wish to discuss your options, please contact this number." Lena stared at the screen, then glanced back at the door where Ryan was. Her cheek still stung. Her love for Ryan had evaporated along with his bank balance. With a trembling but steady finger, Lena pressed the call button. "Hello," Lena said softly. "I'd like to talk about my other options." Inside the room, Ryan was sobbing with his head in his knees. He was alone, truly alone, and he didn't yet realize that the second knife of betrayal was being sharpened right outside his door. Ryan sat nervously on a hard plastic chair with a wobbly leg. The room was small, smelling of stale cigarette smoke and cluttered with disorganized case files. This wasn't the elite law firm in a downtown skyscraper he used to frequent. This was a small, strip mall law office, the only one willing to offer a consultation without an upfront fee. Across from him, a portly lawyer whose shirt buttons were straining at his belly was flipping through the legal notices Ryan had brought. "So, you want to countersue your your ex-wife for defamation and wrongful termination?" the lawyer asked, sipping his thick black coffee. "That's right." Arya humiliated me in public. She displayed my private photos without permission. That's a violation of my rights, Ryan exclaimed, a spark of his old confidence returning. And the termination was illegal. I wasn't given any warnings, just fired on the spot. The lawyer chuckled softly. Mr. Sterling, listen. I may be a street-level lawyer, but I'm not an idiot. You're up against the Sterling Group. Their legal team is led by Mr. Davenport. He's a shark in the corporate law world. As for your photos, they were likely taken in public places or on their property. As for the termination, you're accused of embezzling $15 million with a full digital forensic trail. In employment law, for gross misconduct, which is to say, committing a felony at work, a company has the right to terminate you immediately without severance or warnings. You want to sue? Go ahead. But when you lose, and I guarantee with 99% certainty that you will, you'll have to pay their legal fees and damages, which will make you even broker than you are now. Ryan was silent. But I have rights. Your only right now, sir, is to find a good criminal defense attorney so you don't get the maximum sentence. The problem is, good lawyers cost money. How much money do you have? Ryan checked his pockets. Empty. His accounts were frozen, his assets seized. I can pay you later, after I win the settlement from our marital assets, he mumbled. The lawyer burst out laughing, coughing violently. Marital assets, sir? Your wife is an heiress. The vast majority of her wealth is inherited and protected, and given the proof that you financially damaged the family, no judge is going to award you a single dime. Just go home, sir. Save your money for ramen noodles. Ryan was gently but firmly shown the door. As he stepped out of the dingy office, the afternoon sun felt scorching. His hopes of turning the tables were shattered. He realized a terrifying truth. Arya hadn't just attacked him. She had checkmated him before he even knew they were playing a game. Meanwhile, in a private room of an exclusive Japanese restaurant, the atmosphere was entirely different. Lena sat with trembling hands, holding a cup of tea. Across from her, Mr. Davenport sat calmly, watching her like a hawk eyeing its trapped prey. Arya wasn't present. She refused to be in the same room with the woman who had wrecked her home, delegating this dirty work to her lawyer. I don't want to go to jail, sir, Lena whispered. Dark circles under her eyes were prominent, a sign of sleepless nights. Mr. Davenport opened a folder. The sentence for being an accessory to felony embezzlement is the same as for the primary perpetrator. 5 years. Imagine it, Lena. You're young, beautiful, 5 years in a cramped women's prison, sleeping on a cold floor, eating slop, your skin will wrinkle, your future will be over. Lena began to sob. Please, sir, I was just doing what Ryan told me to do. I don't understand the law. Ignorance is not a defense, Mr. Davenport cut in coldly. But Mrs. Sterling is a pragmatic woman. She's offering you a single lifeboat. Lena looked up quickly, her eyes full of hope. What is it? I'll do anything. Become a justice collaborator. A cooperating witness, Mr. Davenport explained, sliding a legal agreement across the table. You will testify in court. You will detail every instruction Ryan gave you. You will hand over any evidence Ryan tried to hide: ledgers, backup flash drives, the offshore banking access he used, everything. And if I do that, I'll be free? You won't be completely free. You still benefited from the stolen money. But with our recommendation and your status as a cooperating witness, your sentence can be reduced to probation or house arrest. You won't see the inside of a prison cell, provided you return every luxury item you purchased with company funds. Lena looked at the document. Betray Ryan? The man she had loved? No, wait. The man who used to be rich. Now Ryan was just a liability, abusive, broke, and with no future. For an opportunist like Lena, the choice was simple. Okay. Lena took the pen, her hand now steady. I have a voice recording of Ryan telling me to forge a vendor's signature. I also know where he hid his emergency stash of cash. Mr. Davenport smiled faintly. Good. Sign here. And remember, once you sign this, you belong to us. One wrong move, and this protection is gone. Lena signed her name. The black ink on the white paper was Ryan's death sentence. That evening, Ryan returned to the rental room, defeated. He carried a single container of street cart fried rice to share. He was a mess, but he felt a sliver of relief at the thought of seeing Lena. At least he still had one person on his side. But when he opened the door, the sight before him made him freeze. The room was a mess. The cheap plastic wardrobe they had bought was wide open and empty. Lena's suitcases were gone. In the corner, Lena was zipping up her last handbag. "Where are you going?" Ryan asked, his voice choked. Lena turned, her face a cold mask. "I'm leaving." "Leaving where?" "We're in trouble, Lena. You can't just leave me like this." Ryan dropped the food, and rice scattered across the floor. He moved to grab her hand. "Don't touch me," Lena snapped, pulling out a piece of paper. "A police summons. I've been called in for questioning tomorrow, Ryan, and I refuse to go to prison to protect a bankrupt loser like you." "What are you talking about?" "I've spoken to Arya's lawyer. I'm going to be the key witness. I'm giving them everything, Ryan," Lena said, her tone venomous. "The voice recordings, the fake vendor data, all of it. In exchange, I walk." Ryan's world collapsed for the second time. His knees went weak, and he stumbled back against the damp wall. You'd do that to me?" he whispered. "I stole for you, Lena, to buy you cars, jewelry, a home. And now you're selling me out to Arya? You stole because you're greedy, Ryan. Don't you dare blame me," Lena screamed. "And for the record, I was never in love with you. I was in love with your money. I was in love with your status as a COO. Now you're just an unemployed felon. You're useless to me." Those words pierced Ryan's heart more painfully than Arya's public firing. He had thrown away a diamond to pick up a sharp, worthless stone. "Get out!" Ryan seethed, his eyes red with explosive rage. "Get out!" Lena snorted, grabbed her bag, and walked out without a second glance. The sound of her high heels faded down the alley, leaving Ryan alone in the grim, silent room. That night, Ryan howled. Not from the sadness of losing Lena, but from the crushing realization of his own stupidity. He was alone, utterly, completely alone in the world. His parents had blocked his number, afraid of being implicated. His friends had vanished. His wife despised him, and his mistress had just delivered the killing blow. 3 months passed. Ryan's legal process moved forward, but he was out on bail, secured by the last remaining asset he had, the deed to his late grandfather's small plot of land. But life outside of a jail cell was its own kind of prison. Ryan needed money. His savings were gone. He tried applying for jobs. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling," said the HR manager of a mid-sized logistics firm, frowning at his computer screen. "Your name is flagged on a background check with a history of credit defaults, and there's a red flag from the HR Association regarding an integrity violation. We can't process your application." It was the same story everywhere. News of his downfall was common knowledge in the industry. A photo of him being dragged out by security had even gone viral on local blogs with the caption, "Number corporate cheater gets karma." His digital footprint was a permanent stain, destroying his professional career forever. Desperate, Ryan took the only job he could get, driving for Uber. He rented a beat-up Toyota Corolla with his remaining cash. His first day was a lesson in humility. The man who used to sit in the back seat giving orders was now opening doors for others. The lowest point came in his second week. He got a ride request from the upscale business district where his old office was located. He prayed he wouldn't see anyone he knew. But fate had other plans. "To Grand Central, please," the passenger said without looking up from his iPad. Ryan froze. That voice. He glanced in the rearview mirror. It was Buddy, his former subordinate, a man he used to berate and order to make him coffee. Ryan pulled his mask up and his baseball cap down, remaining silent for the entire trip. But when they arrived, as Buddy was about to pay, he finally looked up. Mr. Sterling?" Buddy's eyes went wide. Ryan wanted to stomp on the gas and flee, but he needed the fare. "Hey, Buddy, how are you?" he replied, his voice hoarse, trying to sound casual even as his pride shattered into a million pieces. Buddy looked Ryan up and down. His shirt was wrinkled, his face unshaven and weary. The arrogant, powerful Ryan was gone. "I'm good, sir. Are you Are you driving for Uber now? Just to pass the time. Waiting for a new project to start, Ryan lied. A pathetic lie. Buddy nodded awkwardly. He pulled out a $20 bill for a $15 fare. Keep the change, sir. For, good luck. Buddy got out of the car with a look of pity. For Ryan, that look was more painful than any hatred. The subordinate he once looked down on was now giving him a tip out of charity. Ryan gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Tears streamed down his face, soaking his mask. At his absolute lowest point, he finally understood just how far he had fallen. Judgment Day arrived. The courthouse was swarming with media. The case had captured public attention, involving the heiress of the Sterling Group and a dramatic scandal of corporate and domestic betrayal. Ryan sat at the defendant's table, wearing an orange jumpsuit. His face was gaunt, his hair cropped short. He kept his head down, not daring to look at the spectators. In the front row, Aria sat with regal poise in a black power suit, her expression serene. Beside her was Mr. Davenport. Aria was there not just as a victim, but as a witness to the undoing of the man she once loved. The judge's gavel struck. This court is now in session. Today's agenda is to hear the final witness testimony and deliver the verdict. The prosecutor called his star witness. The prosecution calls Lena Santos to the stand. Ryan lifted his head. He watched Lena enter the courtroom. She looked different, dressed modestly, no heavy makeup, her face somber. She refused to meet Ryan's gaze. Miss Santos, the prosecutor began, is it true that the defendant, Ryan Sterling, instructed you to create fictitious invoices? Yes, Your Honor. Lena's voice trembled, but was clear. Ryan planned everything. He said the company's financial system was weak because his wife never checked the details. He forced me to find names to use for the fake vendors. Lies! Ryan screamed from his chair. She was the one who demanded the money. She wanted me to buy her a condo. The defendant will remain silent, the judge barked. Lena continued her testimony, laying out every incriminating detail. Each sentence was another nail hammered into the coffin of Ryan's freedom. Ryan could only stare at her, hollow-eyed. The woman he had so proudly presented at his anniversary party was now his executioner. After a long and grueling session, the time came for the verdict. The judge read his final considerations. The evidence submitted by Aria and the testimony from Lena were deemed credible and convincing. This court finds, the judge's voice echoed in the silent room, the defendant, Ryan Sterling, guilty of felony embezzlement and wire fraud, committed continuously in his capacity as a corporate officer. Ryan closed his eyes, his heart pounding. This court, therefore, sentences the defendant to a term of 4 years and 6 months in federal prison. Furthermore, the defendant is ordered to pay restitution to the Sterling Group in the amount of $15 million. Failure to pay will result in the liquidation of all seized assets, with any remaining balance to be converted into an additional year of incarceration. Bang! The gavel fell. The sentence was final. Ryan went limp in his chair. 4.5 years. His life was over. As the bailiffs handcuffed him and let him out, he stopped near the front row. He looked at Aria. They were only a few feet apart, yet separated by entire worlds. Aria, Ryan called out weakly, his eyes wet with tears. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Aria stood up slowly. She looked at him, not with hatred, but with the cold indifference one shows a stranger. Your regret doesn't restore my trust, Ryan, she replied calmly. Enjoy your time off. And don't worry about me. I'm much happier now. Aria turned and walked out of the courtroom, flanked by her lawyer, leaving Ryan to watch her back as she disappeared. The back of the woman who had once supported him, now standing tall and strong without him. Ryan was shoved toward the transport vehicle. The heavy steel door slammed shut, plunging him into a darkness as complete as his future. The first 6 months after Ryan's sentencing were a period of brutal but refreshing transition for the Sterling Group. Aria no longer sat passively as chairwoman. She descended from the ivory tower and took over the CEO position Ryan had vacated, a move initially doubted by the older, more conservative shareholders. Can she really do it? She's just been a housewife all this time, the whispers echoed in the hallways. Aria silenced them not with words, but with cold, calculated corporate action. Her first step was a clean sweep. She fired every manager who was one of Ryan's cronies. She completely overhauled the procurement system, making it transparent and digitally based, closing the loopholes her husband had exploited. In her newly renovated office, purged of Ryan's gaudy taste for gold accents, Arya reviewed the quarterly report. Net profits were up 15% since the new systems were implemented. "The numbers speak for themselves, ma'am," said Mr. Davenport, who was now a permanent member of her executive board. Arya smiled with satisfaction. "It seems the company was never losing money because of the market, Mr. Davenport. It was losing money because it was being eaten by rats from the inside. Once you get rid of the rats, the ship sails much faster." While Arya soared, Ryan was thrown to the bottom of a dark pit. In a federal correctional facility, he had to learn to survive in an unforgiving environment. The former executive who slept on a king-sized bed now shared a cramped 4-by-6-meter cell with 15 other inmates. His first night was hell. He couldn't sleep because of the smell of sweat, the sound of snoring, and the fear of being assaulted. His status as a white-collar criminal made him a target for the cell block's alpha. "Hey, suit," a tattooed inmate called from the corner. "Where's the welcome tax? I hear you guys got a lot of cash." My assets were all seized," Ryan stammered, huddled in a corner near the foul-smelling toilet. "Excuses. Have your family send some money for cigarettes tomorrow. If not, you'll be sleeping standing up," the inmate threatened, kicking Ryan's leg. Ryan cried silently that night. He missed his soft bed. He missed the morning coffee his housekeeper used to make. He even missed Arya's nagging, which he had once found so boring. His alpha male arrogance was stripped away, replaced by the primal instinct to simply survive without getting beaten. Outside, Arya was signing a multi-million-dollar international partnership deal. Inside, Ryan was massaging the feet of the cell block leader to earn a sleeping space the size of a floor tile. The contrast of their fates was brutally sharp, as if the universe was finally balancing its scales. A year passed. Rain fell outside, bringing a bone-chilling cold to the prison. Ryan sat in the prison library, the only place he could find a sliver of peace. He was much thinner now, his once manicured hands calloused and rough. But there was a change in his eyes. The arrogant glint was gone, replaced by a look of weary resignation. In front of him was a blank sheet of paper and a pen. He had been staring at it for hours. He wanted to write a letter not to his parents, who were now struggling financially, but to Arya. He began to write, his hand shaking. To Arya, "I don't know if this letter will ever reach you, or if you'll just throw it in the trash. I wouldn't blame you if you burned it without reading. This past year, I've had a lot of time to think. Between the guards' shouts and the cold floor, I've replayed the 5 years of our marriage in my head. I realize now that I never truly saw you. I only saw what you could give me: status, money, an easy life. Yesterday, I saw your face on an old newspaper used to wrap food in the commissary. You were on a 50 most influential women list. You looked beautiful, Arya, more radiant than you ever did with me. That's when I realized that I was the storm cloud that had been blocking your light all along. I'm not asking for your forgiveness so we can get back together. I know that's impossible. I just want you to know that my real punishment isn't this prison. My real punishment is the daily realization that I once held a diamond in my hand and I threw it away to grasp at sand. Be happy, Arya. You deserve the world. Ryan." He folded the letter neatly and gave it to a sympathetic guard to mail. A week later, the letter arrived on Arya's desk. She stared at the envelope, at the handwriting she knew so well. That same handwriting used to pen fake romantic notes on Valentine's Day. Arya opened it with a silver letter opener and read it slowly. Her face remained impassive. No tears fell. Her heart had already healed. She no longer felt burning hatred, nor were there any lingering traces of love. All that was left was a distant pity for someone who had to lose everything to finally appreciate something. "Mrs. Sterling, the car is ready for the gala dinner," her secretary's voice broke her reverie. Arya looked at the letter one last time, then flicked open a lighter. She touched the flame to the corner of the paper, watching it turn to ash in the crystal ashtray on her desk. She didn't need Ryan's apology to be happy. She didn't need validation from her past. "Let's go," Arya said, leaving the ashes behind, just as she had left behind every memory of Ryan. 3 years later, the large iron gates of the prison creaked open. Ryan stepped out, a free man on parole after serving 3.5 years for good behavior. The morning sun felt alien on his skin. There was no one there to pick him up. No luxury car, no Lena, no family. He carried a single duffel bag with his worn-out clothes. Ryan took a public bus to his parents' new rental house on the far edge of the city. They had been forced to sell their old home to help pay a fraction of the restitution to the Sterling Group, a move that reduced Ryan's sentence slightly. When he arrived, he saw his father sitting on the porch of the cramped house, peeling potatoes to make chips their new source of income. "Dad," Ryan said softly. His father looked up. His face was older, more wrinkled and tired. He stared at Ryan for a moment, then sighed. There was no warm embrace. "Get inside. Your mother is frying chips out back. Don't expect an easy life here. We eat what we can afford." Life after prison was harder than Ryan had imagined. The label ex-convict, white-collar criminal stuck to him like a disease. No company would hire him, not even for the lowest administrative position. He ended up working odd jobs, sometimes as a day laborer at the wholesale market, sometimes as an illegal parking attendant. One afternoon, while taking a break at a roadside coffee stall, Ryan saw a familiar figure. A woman in shabby clothes was haggling with a vegetable vendor. Her hair was tied back messily, her face tired and aged without the help of beauty clinics. It was Lena. Ryan froze. He wanted to call out to her, to vent his anger over her betrayal, but his feet felt like lead. He overheard the vendor's conversation. "Hey, Lena, what about your debt from last week? Your husband, the delivery driver, get paid yet?" "Soon, ma'am," Lena pleaded. "My husband's sick, and his bike is broken." Ryan smiled grimly. So, Lena got her other option from Mr. Davenport, but her life hadn't improved. She married an ordinary man and was trapped in the very poverty she had tried to escape by having an affair with him. Karma wasn't always a prison cell. Sometimes it was a lifetime of mediocre financial struggle. Ryan decided against approaching her. What was the point? They were just two losers who had once dreamed of being a king and queen through deceit. 6 months after his release, Ryan found a steady job as a package courier. The pay was minimum wage, enough for food and to rent a scooter. He began to accept his fate. One afternoon, he was assigned a delivery of a large document package to a skyscraper in the financial district, Sterling Tower. Ryan's heart pounded as he parked his scooter in the loading dock. He knew this was his ex-wife's building. He prayed he wouldn't run into anyone who recognized him. He entered through the back, as per procedure, but the service elevator was broken. A guard directed him to go through the main lobby to the reception desk. As he walked across the magnificent marble lobby, Ryan stopped dead in his tracks. A group of people in sharp business suits was walking out the main entrance. In the center of them was an impossibly elegant woman in a pristine white blazer. Her aura was powerful and authoritative, yet she radiated warmth as she greeted her employees. It was Arya. Beside her walked a handsome, well-built man about her age, but who looked far more mature and classy than Ryan ever had. The man held the car door open for Arya, and she smiled at him, a genuine, heartfelt smile that had once belonged to Ryan, a smile he had taken for granted. The man was Ethan, Arya's new fiancé, a renowned architect who valued her as an equal partner. Ryan stood frozen near a large pillar, clutching the package to his chest, his delivery jacket smelling of sweat and exhaust fumes. He felt infinitesimally small, like a speck of dust in the palace he once inhabited. Just before getting into the car, Arya's eyes swept across the lobby. For a fraction of a second, her gaze paused in the direction of the pillar where Ryan stood. Ryan held his breath. Did she see me? Her gaze lingered for only a moment. There was no flicker of recognition, no surprise, no hatred. She saw him as just another one of the hundreds of strangers who passed through her building every day. A courier, a nobody, meaningless. Arya got into the car, and the luxury sedan glided away. Ryan exhaled a long, slow breath. A sharp pain hit his chest, but this time it wasn't love. It was the final, crushing realization. Arya had truly and completely forgotten him. To her, Ryan Sterling no longer existed. And that was the most devastating revenge of all, to be erased, to be rendered insignificant. Ryan adjusted his cap, looked down, and walked to the reception desk to drop off his package. "Package for the finance department," he told the beautiful receptionist, who barely glanced up at him. "Okay, leave it there," she replied, not even looking at his face. Ryan walked out of the building. The New York sun was harsh, but his steps felt a little lighter. He had finally seen the end of his story. 5 years after the divorce, Arya stood on the balcony of her penthouse, overlooking the glittering expanse of the city lights. A simple but elegant white gold ring now encircled her finger, a symbol of her marriage to Ethan, the man she had met 3 years ago. From the living room, she could hear Ethan's hearty laugh as he played chess with her uncle. The home was filled with a warmth and genuine affection she had never felt in her first marriage. Arya sipped her chamomile tea. She thought back to that night in the ballroom. It felt like a lifetime ago. The wound had healed completely, the scar barely visible. She had learned so much. She learned that loyalty wasn't just about not sleeping with someone else, but about protecting your partner's dignity. She learned that a woman must be empowered, must hold the reins of her own life, so that no one could ever shatter her world simply by walking away. "Honey, come inside. It's getting chilly," Ethan called softly, draping a shawl over her shoulders. Arya smiled, touching her husband's hand. "I was just feeling grateful." "Grateful for what?" "For a painful past," Arya replied firmly. "Because without that pain, I wouldn't have become the woman I am today, and I might never have met you." Meanwhile, at a roadside food stall on the edge of the city, Ryan was washing dirty dishes in the back. It was his second job to make ends meet. His hands were rough and calloused from the cheap detergent. He wiped the sweat from his brow and heard a romantic pop song playing from a nearby radio. He smiled bitterly. Life goes on. He couldn't turn back time. He was serving his true sentence now, not in a prison, but a life sentence of regret. Ryan looked up at the night sky. The same stars that shone down on Arya in her luxurious penthouse also shone on him at his grimy food stall. 2 lifelines that had once intersected had now returned to their original, separate orbits. The queen was back on her throne, and the traitor had returned to dust. Ryan went back to scrubbing the greasy plates. Life had to go on, even if it was just to survive. And so the story ended, as it should. Truth found its way, and every action found its consequence.